counter.
We've got another trailer.
It feels very
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unwanted Opinion. As you can probably tell, Lewis is not with us today, but I have here with me the wonderful and amazing Kyle.
Oh, what an entrance, Gonzalo. Thank you so much. Lucy needs to up his game after your entrance just there. Definitely.
Yeah, there you go. I'm given the chance to do it, why not add a little bit of flair? But on today's episode, we're going to be discussing a bunch of different topics. First of all, we got a very short review from one of the latest horror movies from Kyle. And then we're going to be talking a lot in this episode about AI and their relations with the recent Writers and Actors Guild strikes, which the writers' ones literally ended a couple of hours before we started recording this episode. Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting episode. A lot of talking, a lot of deliberating, and I'm gonna put it over to you, Kyle, so we can go over this movie review.
Yeah, we're gonna jump in. So the movie I'm gonna be reviewing today is No One Will Save You. Okay, so this released last Friday, I think, the 22nd of September. I want to say that's last Friday. I could be completely... Yes,
yeah,
it was.
I think that's last Friday.
And it released on Hulu in the States, and most international place will be Disney Plus. Disney Plus is Star.
It's the Star service.
Yeah, so this is a completely streaming film. Had a budget of 22.
Direct to streaming kind of.
Yeah, direct to streaming. Had a budget of 23 million, just so we know. Directed by Brian Duffield, who is known for... This is his kind of director... He's known for having a lot of writing credits, right? Have you ever seen the Babysitter films on Netflix?
No, but I know about the Babysitter films. Yeah. They're
I've
like the slashery ones. Yeah,
I've seen the Babysitter films and I quite enjoy them.
Yeah, they don't seem bad at all. I've actually been recommended them and stuff because I do
laugh.
like the kind of like It's like a comedy slasher kind of a mix of comedy and horror kind of style, right?
Yeah, and this film basically it stars Caitlin Dever. I think I may have butchered her name. Who you'll know from Booksmart. Do you remember?
Booksmart.
Yes,
okay, yeah.
So
Lewis really liked that woman. Yeah.
So she plays Brian, who is basically right. I'm gonna give you a very kind of. I'm not going to go into too much here because it's really easy to spoil. So she's a seamstress living in her childhood home, and she lives by herself because her mother has passed away before the events of the film. And she kind of lives this kind of very idyllic life in the house. It's a very kind of old-timey house. You would be, like, questioning what time period it was because she's kind of living very 50s-esque sort of thing. She likes to make a model version of her town in her living room. Like, she's got little, like, model stuffs and everything. And she lives a little kind of idyllic life.
Very Back to the Future.
Do you know what? It did kind of actually reminded me of the Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And she lives this kind of level idyllic life, and when she goes into town, you'll notice that for some reason, nobody speaks to her. Okay, nobody gives her the time of day. Everybody kind of looks at her with some sort of disgust look in her. Okay, and then one night, she gets an unexpected extraterrestrial visitor in her house.
Ooh, okay.
And
This
she
already.
And she needs
I
to
get
survive.
why you recommended
And she
this.
needs to survive the night. Okay?
I understand why you recommended this too.
No
This
one
already
will
sounds
save
very
you.
intriguing.
It is. So no one will save you, right? So I'm actually. This is a wee bit bizarre. So I'm going to go into my thoughts of this film because I think we could have really different views on it. Because I knew absolutely nothing going into this film, right? I'm going to tell you that you have to expect this film has, I think, 2 lines of dialogue, 4 words in total.
Oh, wow.
It is almost a completely silent film, right? Which I think I would have liked to have known going in because I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there going...
You were shocked.
I was watching this with my girlfriend and I was like, they haven't said anything yet. And I was like, it's been about 20 minutes. They're really going for this, right? And I think knowing some of these aspects will kind of make you enjoy your experience of this film a wee bit more.
Okay.
And there's a lot of kind of unraveling in the story of why everybody's not talking to her, what kind of happened, what's the kind of backstory, which kind of leads to the effect of how she survives the night with this kind of alien encounter. I'll be a wee bit. I'll give you something here. You do, it's not a very hidden away. You will see the creature, and I say they do a really good design. For 22 million, it was
nice.
it was really good. It's very classic.
Nice.
It's a very grey alien aspect. Like the classic what you would think of an alien.
Yeah, big head, big eyes, kind
Yeah,
of.
that's
Slim body kind of thing.
very much like you get, and I think it's actually really good design of that kind of stereotypical alien. And yeah, you have some
fits
kind
with
of
the 50s aesthetic you were mentioning.
that's it kind of felt like a bit of Roswell, and you do get a bit of there's some fun kind of like Home Alone aspect kind of trappings around the house. I won't go into
my
too
favorite
much.
part of Skyfall.
I won't go into oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that. So I won't go into too much about that. But I will say that for me personally, the ending is a bit ambiguous, right? And that's all I'm going to go into the ending. But I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with ambiguous endings. If I take probably one of the best ambiguous endings in recent years, Christopher Nolan's Inception, I had a lot of time, engrossed in this world and the world building, and love the characters. I was genuinely quite by the ambiguous ending. For a 90-minute runtime with a character that doesn't speak and you only get certain parts of their emotion, some of it's done really well, and other times I'm kind of like, I think you should have chopped and chased us a bit more, and maybe put some stuff in there. And
it's a bit too vague, a bit too puzzling.
It was a bit too vague at some times. You're sitting there questioning a lot of things more than actually enjoying the experience of the film.
So it kind of takes you out a bit like Wes Anderson style, where it just hops you out of the movie for a second to wonder what.
No, exactly. And once again, this might have been just me going in thinking I was getting something.
Well,
I saw nothing before this.
Yeah, you weren't
right?
expecting a silent film.
Yeah, exactly. And me and my girlfriend, we were wanting. We've been on a bit of like a horror kick recently, and we watched the Empty Man a couple of weeks ago, which is another film on Disney Plus, which I would recommend you watching. It's quite interesting. And I was expecting like a proper hardcore horror. I wouldn't say this is hardcore horror.
It's more psychological kind of.
It is a bit psychological and. It is a bit slow, but 90 minutes. It doesn't feel short. It doesn't feel long. It was actually quite good at the runtime. Her, Caitlin Dyer's acting, incredible. For obviously only saying about 4 lines of dialogue for the whole thing, she really is acting her best in kind of a physical, emotion.
It's
how
not an
she
easy
feels,
thing to do,
how she feels like comfortable in the house. She's living her best life, and then when she goes out to do her daily errands, how she kind of slumps back into a very kind of anxious introvert. Everybody's looking at her sort of vibe, and then how she deals with the unwanted intruder in the night. But honestly, that's all I'm going to say about this film, because I think there's a lot to unravel here, and I think anybody who's read or even listened to this kind of review of it may get a better understanding and appreciation for the film than I did. I was quite hesitant at it at the start. I had to actually do some kind of like explanation watching like IGN's how this ended to get a bit of clarity. But I'm gonna give Nolan Save You a really solid 6 out of 10 for the moment.
Oh wow, that's really good.
I was a very solid 5 when I first saw it, but having thought of it a wee bit more, I was a bit maybe this was doing much more, and like Guillermo del Toro hyped it up so much. So I was like, maybe I'm missing something here.
I will say, I can understand someone like Guillermo del Toro enjoying this kind of filmmaking, because having worked with animation very recently, he's probably in a kick of that very visual kind of storytelling that animation gives.
Yeah,
which
and maybe
I always admire.
And maybe it's a bit of the story
kind of recent
as well. Because it's not the most cheerful story, so maybe he likes that because he loves. He loves his death. Guillermo del Toro, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really likes the whole supernatural as metaphor for human experience kind of things. So
listen, guys, that's a review for that film. Please watch. I genuinely would say watch this film. It's getting a lot of praise, a lot of hype. Don't watch any trailers. Okay, if this is all that you're knowing about the film going in, please just
go
leave
in.
it at that, okay? Because after that,
Would you say for a more like hesitant audience, is there anything to be extremely squeamish about? Any gory thing that they
no,
might,
no, no.
or
There's
like
not.
we're
There's
talking
not.
just
There's
no?
not
Okay.
huge. No, there's not really any gore. You get a bit of blood, obviously. But
Yeah,
you're not.
you know.
This isn't your Saws
No,
or
I'm not
your.
talking like Saws. Okay. So like, there's not like a torture porn kind of
No,
feel
no,
where
no,
you're
no,
like,
no,
oh,
no.
this
It's
is
not. It's
okay,
not
cool.
anything like that. There's a lot of kind of suspension. Some of it gives you alien vibes, obviously. Some of it gives nice alien
Yeah.
vibes.
Okay.
Sometimes you get a bit of Predator vibes at times as well. It's a nice
Ooh,
little
nice.
mix. I
The
definitely enjoy.
hunted and the
Yeah,
hunting.
I
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed the kind of middle section of the film the most.
Okay.
But I would definitely say,
It's interesting.
Gonzalo, please, I want
I'm
somebody
gonna
else
give
in
it
this
a watch. Yeah.
podcast to watch it because I need somebody to talk to. Because
Yeah.
all I
I'm gonna
had,
give it a watch
me
for
and my girlfriend are begging that either you or Lewis will talk, will watch it, so somebody can tell us if we were thinking the right or
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I am in the same boat. That happens to me a lot, where I'm like, I really need to know what you guys' opinion of this film is because I want to know whether I'm completely nuts right now or whether my
I
opinion
mean,
is making
Gonzalo,
sense at all.
we've been
Yeah.
waiting months at this rate for your opinion of Oppenheimer, and we will
Yes,
continue to be
and you will
waiting
keep
years.
waiting. Yeah, we're just talking before the show started about how we're probably gonna save my review of Oppenheimer until the very last episode we ever do. For any reason, if this podcast ever ends, then I'll do my review of Oppenheimer.
We did say that. That would be quite funny. Anyway, shall we
Yeah.
jump into our kind of main topic?
Yes.
of this
Okay.
week?
Okay. So let's just clarify some terms. So we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to be talking about AI in film. So what is AI? It's an artificial intelligence. Not really. We're talking about algorithmic generation here, about computer learning.
Chatbots.
This is basically
like
chatbots.
Yeah.
A bunch of softwares where they input a fuck ton of information into them, and then that information gets filtered. It helps the algorithm learn what is what, and then be able to reproduce that same kind of information. So the opposite of a CAPTCHA.
Yeah, so you got ChatGPT being obviously the most prominent, well-known one. Google Bard and Microsoft Copilot are two other kind of more.
Those are text-based, quote-unquote AI software.
And just for some other kind of clarifications, if we say there's two main guilds we'll be talking about: the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, and the Screen Actors Guild of America, the SAG. So two unions.
So the WAG and the SAG.
The WAG and the SAG. We'll probably just say Writers and Actors Guild, but there are two separate entities. So basically, what happened was 148 days ago, as it has ended today, the Writers Guild of America did go on strike. Now, this was over a lot of residual pay issues with streaming services mainly.
Streaming services.
There was a very interesting, I can't remember the writer's name, but he would post his residual checks on Twitter, TikTok, and it would be something like, 17 cents. Something stupid like that, right? And this obviously kind of built up the writers to kind of go on strike and kind of fight for equal pay. And
if people don't know, like, the whole way how like writing works in this kind of industry, especially for shows and TV, and how it used to work back in the day, is basically you get paid to write for a show. Imagine an episode of a sitcom, an episode of Friends. You wrote for that episode of Friends. You get paid your salary or your freelance fee for writing for that episode. Then any time that episode replays on TV, because there's advertisers playing around it, and the network is making money off of that episode, you get a percentage of what's called the residuals, which is basically, hey, we put the thing that you did up on the screen again, so we're going to give you money for that. It works the same with acting and a lot of other jobs relating to this kind of thing. It works with film, it works with TV. Sometimes there's special deals and stuff, but it's basically like the industry standard. As soon as streaming became a thing, I remember there was a previous like Writers Guild strike a while ago. 2008, yes, when Netflix was starting to become like a very big thing, like, but right before it kind of like, became
I think it was a
Netflix.
couple of years before they kind of really kicked off
Yeah.
their streaming service platform.
Yes. The writer strike really like was very much about them wanting to get into that kind of like new platforms and trying to secure residuals for writers in those platforms.
When you had Netflix
because
originally,
it wasn't going to be a thing.
Well, yeah, because when you had Netflix, you go back to the core of Netflix, which was a DVD sharing platform.
Yeah.
Let's say Netflix bought 10 copies of a film, and that's the only 10 copies that appeared in those writers' residual checks. But then Netflix basically rents out that film to other people. Those actors didn't see anything, or they wouldn't see as much. And then obviously when streaming came along, that became a much bigger thing, because this is even writers that are, maybe like specifically Netflix show writers. But what had basically become a huge thing is because of AI. There's a lot of fear that studios would start using AI to do some rewriting, or even just writing some episodes. Now,
and then having copywriters clean it up rather than actual episode writers. Yeah.
And what happened originally with the 2008 strikes is, instead of, scripts go through multiple drafts, obviously, we all know this.
Yeah.
What happened in 2008 is that they went, right, we're not going to pay the writers a fair wage, so we'll just take the first draft of whatever they made. And I would like to point out, that's how we got X-Men Origins Wolverine. So this is that's not a huge sign of why.
This hurts art, and it hurts our enjoyment of media. This is not just, even if you want to be a selfish asshole and say, well, I don't care if writers get paid as long as I get my money. I don't know why you went with that accent, but that's the accent.
Now, interestingly, obviously the Writers' Guild, 148 days, which I don't think is as long as the 2008 one. Maybe it was. Or
no,
maybe
but close.
Is it close?
Might have been close.
I know it's the second longest strike, so I don't know what the first one was.
Okay.
But
it is curious as well, because it is one of the first times where the Writers and the Actors Guild have strike.
So the last time that happened was about the 60s. I think we talked about that, right? And so we'll go on to the actor strike, because that's kind of
the actor strike. But
the actor strike's a lot more to do with AI. So, but the writer strikes, however, the deal is a tentative deal which bars the use of AI for writing or rewriting literary material and forbids studios from enforcing writers to use it. However, the deal also allows writers to choose the use of AI to aid the writing upon receiving consent from studios. So this could be a sense that if a writer has hit writing block, and they're maybe on a bit of a push.
It's up to the disclosure of the writers to use these tools.
If they say to the studio, I'm in a big bit of a writer's block, I know we've got a deadline coming up, I might use AI to help generate ideas that I will eventually use and actually write around it, that's fine. What they didn't want to do was basically have AI generated scripts, which I like I said, I mean, I'm doing a lot of kind of research on AI at the moment, because I'm doing it for my uni dissertation. AI's not great. It's not as great as everybody thinks it is when you're trying to give it really basic stuff. Now, sure, studios could do a lot more.
It's fantastically incredible compared to nothing, but it is
stuff. It is incredible than nothing. And I have to admit, I have spent a few hours typing, can you create a Thunderbird cinematic universe and give me 7 films, and I sit back and I wish that's what I had. But it's not, you could very much tell any kind of things written by AI at the moment. Maybe in a few years it might get a bit better. But the writers are genuinely, like, I can't imagine any world where a studio thought it was a good idea now. And this becomes a huge thing where we get into, thankfully we're obviously a very small podcast and we don't have any influence in the studios, so we can say whatever the hell we want. Because
no one's paying us, no one's giving us anything. Are
these studios stupid? I mean, we'll go on more when we talk about the actor strike, right?
Immensely corrupt and dumb, and oh my god.
Now, there was an incredible fact that I saw that it was the revenue from a certain company, or the profit from a certain company, will not say anything, but their mascot's a mouse. called Mickey. Yeah, I'm not saying who they are, but the figure it would have cost for Michael the Mouse, the figure it would have taken out of the profits of this company to fulfill the writers' strike was 0.8%.
Yes.
Right.
But you have to think about the fact that there's a bunch of executives who just put a down payment on their fourth house, and they really,
of course, I don't,
really want that pool.
I completely forget that.
You really want it.
Certain CEOs earn upwards of 200 million or 20 million.
But they need that money.
Need that
How are
bonus.
they going to survive without it?
How will they survive? And
yeah,
it's insane, right? It's absolutely insane.
Absolutely
and
insane.
Studios have been making horrific decisions on terms of now. Yes. This is another point to call at the writers aspect, right? Willow.
Yes.
Or the film Crater. Those writers made content for a certain mouse related studio. We'll call them Disney because that's who they are.
Yes.
They went on the streaming services, and obviously we don't know. The writers have got right. We could have got a good residual deal out of this. We could have not. Booth, bath, bush. Literally, Willow and Crater, I think, was on it for less than 2 months or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. And these films don't have any physical media or TV shows.
They're just gone. They were directly made for streaming, and they took them out of streaming, and they're gone. Let's not even get started on the HBO merger. And how they decided to can a lot of things that were already done. How Netflix has basically canned a bunch of shows that were already finished just because it cut them on taxes at the end of the year. Yeah. It's just a lot of shitty behavior. Batgirl.
We didn't get Batgirl, but we got The Flash. I will never understand that executive decision.
Thank God we got The Flash. The problem here is that a lot of people think that, these people have their jobs because they're very qualified for it. No, we are living under a bunch of idiots who have no idea what they're doing, and they are just there, and that's their job. Even when they fuck the job, the people who actually pay for their mistakes are the people under them and not them.
Yeah.
So in this case it's the writers. By taking away these shows, they basically justify not having to pay residuals, as well as one of the major contenders, I believe, of the strike was the fact that the viewing figures for all of these streaming platforms aren't made public.
No.
These are not viewing figures.
Because I was saying, I think literally the other day, due to the actors' strike, which is still ongoing, not to get confused, Netflix, a certain amount of streaming services have brought forward, have disclosed or undisclosed their viewing figures for certain projects. Now, we obviously don't know about that. That's a very kind of personal kind of thing. And it's very interesting because obviously they only tell us good things.
Yes.
Right? They'll tell us when, One Piece has been streamed 85 million times, or something like that.
They control the flow of information fully, which means that they can control and they can manipulate how many residuals they pay the writers and the actors, because they don't know how many times the show has been streamed. They can make it up if they want to. If they want good publicity, they can control the flow of information. If they want to stop that publicity, they can also not disclose that a new movie they spent thousands on has very low streaming numbers. And this is all very curious because when this was television before streaming, television has a lot of different organizations whose job is to calculate these numbers, public organizations that calculate the numbers for the network. It's not an in-network thing, it's an out-of-network thing, specifically to prevent shit like this from going down. You can't pretend that Friends got 50 billion viewers last night because there's a public organization estimating and calculating that number for you. And it was a lot less exact when it comes to TV figures because you're just taking into account whether the TV's turned on or not. Whereas when you're talking about streaming services, there's literal login information, so it's a lot more exact and it's a lot easier to actually get these figures. But because they don't make them public, they basically control the flow of information and they get to do whatever the heck they want with them. And this was a big contention that was not fought for at the start of in the 2008 one, because basically they were fighting for something they weren't sure was going to become a problem, and they predicted it. They got their residuals down, but they can't really guarantee those residuals, whether it's like the actual amount of the residuals or the fact that they can lie about the numbers.
It's honestly insane, and I think we'll kind of segue on to the actors' strike, because
this one has a lot more to do with AI.
Which is very interesting. So obviously, actors again went on strike due to pay and residuals, which is obviously something that had to be done. I also like to point out
very much in common with the writers. Yeah.
I also like to point out that it is likely that within the next couple of weeks, because the studios have come to good negotiations with the Writers Guild, they will likely come to negotiations with the actors. Hopefully.
Yes.
I also like to point out that there have been studios that have just gone, yeah, we agree. That's fair. And they're 100%. Filming a couple of A24 films were able to go on filming.
Yeah, A24 pretty much agreed immediately.
Adam Driver, when he got to do press for Ferrari, he was just kind of like, it's insane how the smaller studios could just accept it, but the bigger studios with the more money struggle. But anyway, let's talk about what the actors were
because
really
you'd think, oh man, the poor small studios, they don't want to pay their actors more, they can't afford it. But no, if they can afford it, the mouse one surely can.
I know Disney here, they're not the only big bad. You've got Paramount, you've got Warner Brothers, you've got all of the major studios, Universal.
They're so bad. They're all so bad.
It's not
even Netflix.
It's not just Netflix as well. The big streaming services are bad for this as well. But what really threw me when the actors went on strike is that studios were, obviously residuals and all that aside, studios were willing to pay extras a day's worth of work, which could be a couple of £100 to £1,000, to then have their likeness digitally saved so that they could be used in future projects without pay and without consent.
I will say, this is incredibly fucked up, and it seems out of like a horror movie.
Isn't this the most Black Mirror thing you've ever seen?
I don't remember the name, but there was a fucking indie movie from somewhere in the northern Europe area that was precisely, this was the plot of the film, about a film star who sells their likeness.
You need to watch the most recent Joanne is Awful from the most recent season of Black Mirror. Very similar concept. It was quite funny that this all happened when this came out. And you know what? Started this, I feel, is when studios started de-aging actors.
Yes.
Right?
We've seen this when they brought them back to life. Like,
I think
saw this with Tarkin in Rogue One.
Well, I was about to say, I think Tarkin and Leia from the Rogue One were probably the start of this, okay?
Yeah.
And then a big one was Luke Skywalker in the end of Mandalorian.
Yes.
Where they were able to use...
because I was gonna say, sorry, that we've seen like actors be de-aged or aged in effects before, but the point was to like have the same actor who's playing the character look older or younger through makeup or VFX, but it's never been like reviving a likeness. We used to recast roles. That was a thing. If you were doing a franchise and one of the actors died, you just recast them. Like, we've seen this in Harry Potter and stuff like that, where, like, it continues on. Yeah, the actor passes away, but you just recast them, There's little less you can do. But, yeah, no, it was at the start of things like in Tarkin, where like in Rogue One they
And
basically just had one of their I think it was his son play him and then like CGI
yeah,
the face on and stuff. Yeah.
it's funny as well because
Hmm.
the studios tried with, um, you know, recasting, with Solo, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Solo didn't do well because, well, the studio fought because they recast Harrison Ford, but maybe
Yes.
because they absolutely butchered that film, and it was,
Yes. Which is
two
weird because it's
two
still one
different.
of
It was,
the
yeah, it was two
it's still one of the
movies.
prettiest movies that in the
Yeah,
Star Wars franchise, but the writing is just god
it's
fucking
two
awful.
different films squashed together with two budgets, and they
Yeah.
went, it was probably because we recasted him, so let's
Yes,
just de-age
100%. That was
everybody.
the
And
issue. Hmm.
you have de-aging, right, which is what they did with Indiana Jones at the start. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
Harrison Ford was doing those scenes, and
Yeah.
they just put
But
dots on
like
his
it's a
face.
flashback, you know.
Yeah,
It's the kind
it's a
of thing. The
flashback.
same way, like in Saving Private Ryan, at the end, like you have the very
Yeah,
like iconic aging scene, or like something like Benjamin Button, where like you
yeah,
have the character age and de-age throughout the kind of movie's runtime, you know.
but it's then when you have,
Hmm.
let's go back to Luke Skywalker, where
Yeah.
it's a young actor with
Hmm.
a de-aged, um, Mark Hamill's face on top of him, with
Yeah,
an
which is a
AI
deep fake.
altered voice to make
Yeah.
his voice sound young. So look,
Hmm.
Mark Hamill is recording the lines, but they're using an
Yes.
AI to
Yes.
de-age his voice,
Which
and
for
it's
me
now at
is
this point.
fucking hilarious because you have one of the best like fucking voice actors in this generation, and you're like, oh no, we'll de-age his voice. Let's not ask
Yeah,
him to play it young. Let's just de-age it. It's
yeah, you
not
have a
going to be
great voice
believable
actor, and you
otherwise.
go,
Yeah,
nah, let's just
yeah.
not bother.
Or
And this is
controversial opinion, maybe recast the look for a couple of fucking scenes.
it's
I don't know.
honestly, if that if Disney wanted to kind of recapture the origin trilogy, the original trilogy and aspect, just recast. It's
Yeah,
the characters we love. Those actors
yeah.
did a fantastic job portraying those
He did.
characters, but it's the characters we love. And this is the thing I don't think
But
studios
you know the
understand.
problem. It goes back to the issue with today's Hollywood. It's all surface level. It would be amazing if we had a solo movie with a recast character and he just felt like Han Solo.
Yeah,
But
and
the
that could
problem
be a
is that
whole
since
trilogy.
yeah, but like the problem is since the writing isn't there because they don't want to pay their writers, and the quality control isn't there because they don't want to wait longer to shoot the film because it's got to come out every year at least one Star Wars movie, or else the world explodes. You have these issues where like you can't recapture the feeling of the originals because you're not writing the same character. You're writing a dude. They're just a dude. So unless you put the image of the dude that people remember, it doesn't feel like the dude that you remember. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. They're obsessed with the imagery of like nostalgia rather than the actual, quality writing that could lead to it.
Yeah, it's something that is genuinely quite fearful
Hmm.
because the films
It's kind
still
of
make
scary.
money, and I do
Yeah.
see in the future that this is even the stuff that. So if you even
Hmm.
look at AI, right? Let's go on a wee bit of a curveball here. So we know
Hmm.
the volume, right? Which I don't know if
Hmm.
anybody doesn't know, is a kind of oval cylinder kind of shape,
Yeah.
like a
With
giant
LED
LED
projector. Yeah.
screen that was
Hmm.
first kind of used, to make the Mandalorian.
Hmm.
Basically, you could program it and it will show you a background. It works, right? It
Yeah.
worked when we didn't know what it was, and
Yeah,
then
it's
when we
it's
knew
a
what it
it's a
was, we now
really
see it.
good yeah, it's a really good way of shooting small scenes with little movement in
Yeah,
like spaces where you're barely like having any
and
kind of
that's
motion. Basically,
as soon as you start running,
yeah.
it's very obvious.
As soon as you have any choreography, it's
But what,
fucking
what,
awful.
but what can happen here is in the
Yeah.
future. Now, obviously, this is a good few years away. Because, like I say,
Hmm.
AI at the moment very limited.
Hmm.
We've talked about oh right, we'll jump onto something because there is something that we should
Hmm.
jump back onto. So just give me we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
AI generated art, right now,
Yes.
not great. Let's
Hmm.
just say it's not amazing. some of it's okay, some of it's depending what
It's
kind of
not.
software.
The thing is, it's not good art because it doesn't understand composition, lighting,
Hmm.
storytelling, anything like that. It is very good at replicating the look of art.
That's the
Very
thing. It
much.
steals
Yeah.
somebody's
Yes.
form. But
Yeah.
then, in the future, you could have
Hmm.
an AI so, creative in something that you're in the
Hmm.
volume and you type in what you want, and that
Hmm.
takes away from digital artists. Now that is a wee
Oh
bit
yeah.
far away, but
Hmm.
you may be saying, "Oh, studios would never do that. They wouldn't use AI art to use
Yeah.
like a kind of, let's say, an intro to a TV show,
Yeah. For
Secret
example.
Invasion,
Oh wow.
right?
Yeah.
Have you seen the intro to Secret Invasion?
I have. That's why I haven't seen Secret Invasion.
It's
Uh.
the most god awful. You could
Yeah.
tell it's AI art
Yeah.
because it's shit.
Yeah. They
That whole show was
apparently.
bad, but that
Yeah.
intro was even worse. And
Their
the budget on
defense
that as
was
well.
that it was a commission that they paid artists to make, and they made the decision of using AI generation for it. So it's okay then. That was Disney's
That's
excuse for that
absolute rubbish. Because then
when
you just
interviewed. Yeah.
don't pay people to just generate
I
art.
mean, they wanted an imagery that feels uncanny, and you could make it, or you could use
Also,
AI
if you
generation.
just didn't take
Yeah.
if you just didn't make Secret Invasion, you could have taken that money and given it to the
Paid
writers, which would probably actually made you
actors.
more
Yeah.
back than Secret Invasion did, because I've
I mean,
sadly watched.
we can't see the viewing figures, so we have no idea
Uh
whether
huh.
it's succeeded or
I
not because
you know
they don't release them.
I have occasionally joked of Liz coming out with some films that are bad, and we're like, well, maybe there's a reason they're not. But
Mm,
it's the fact that obviously script qualities range, right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
when you're getting good, constant quality of scripts and they're not being
Mm,
equally paid. It's a
mm,
lot harder when you have studios that.
mm.
Right. So take a good example, right? Let's take any sort of TV show that had kind of multiple writers on it, right? You
Yeah,
got any sort of animation film TV show like King of the Hill,
yeah.
Ballsburg, maybe something like that.
Mm,
Compare it to a TV show like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where
mm,
the creators are the actors and the writers.
yes.
Because they're the executives, they're the they created the
They
show,
have
they're the
control
showrunners.
over it. Yeah.
They'll be getting a fairly good pay, because
Yeah.
without them none of it happens.
Mm. And
When you
there's
have a
like
very
what,
kind of
12 seasons? No, wait, even more.
16.
Of 16. We're on season
Yeah, the
16,
16th
and I just
season
watched
came
the
out.
last episode of Always Sunny. It's so much like it's not just as good as when it started. It's like so much better. Every
Yeah,
single episode is better. Yeah.
and those guys are getting paid
Hmm.
probably quite well.
Yeah.
And that sense because of the deals they have, but that's not the
Hmm.
point. You have so many shows that have got the same quality of writing
Hmm.
as Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and those writers should be paid the same, and you
Yeah.
should not justify it to AI
Hmm.
at all. And it does give me the fear, because I do see in the future we will have
Hmm.
maybe not AI films, but parts of films will be AI generated.
Oh, for sure.
Back
For sure.
background actors, like
Oh,
background
for sure.
extras,
Yeah.
I could see that
Oh yeah, why
easily
pay an
being AI.
extra and have to like feed them for the day, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do when you could just, CG them in. Yeah.
It's quite upsetting when you're thinking about it, and weirdly, this film has been in my head, which is weird because I don't overly love it. But Babylon really does push the love and the effectiveness that early silent films had on
Yeah.
moviegoers, and the passion
Yeah.
and the effort was put into the projects. And I really do feel that if studios in the future go down the route of artificial intelligence, it is ruining the effort and love that. I do think that I can see it being useful in the sense that
Yeah,
writers
no,
are
that's the
struggling
thing.
to get something done.
Again,
It's how I've been saying, it's a tool. It is
yeah,
not.
that's the thing. Yeah, a algorithmic generation, like everything else, is a tool. I don't see it as an inherently bad thing. It's an inherently amoral thing.
Yeah.
The problem is we're having studios that time and again, at every single opportunity, have shown that the only thing that they care about is cutting costs and maximizing profits, and they're going to do
Yes.
anything that they can to achieve those goals and nothing else. Nothing else matter. Quality doesn't matter. Like good storytelling doesn't matter. Artistic integrity. What the fuck are you even talking about at that point?
And
So like
there's honestly, it's stupid
you
to
have
see.
to we're dealing with toddlers here. We're dealing with fucking babies. You have to put them on a leash, put them inside their crib and say you can't get out and play with the knives, because I don't trust you with the fucking knives, because every time I give you a knife, you cut yourself, and I don't want you to cut yourself. So that's the thing here. That's the thing. We're talking about studios. I mean, honestly, we could extend this to literally anything, because we live in a late stage capitalism, and things are fucked. But in the case of something like studios, and especially like fucking creating art that we can all enjoy, yeah, if you give it to the studios, we're gonna get more of the kind of things that we always complain about here. There's nothing wrong about a movie that
Hmm.
tried and ended up being bad. There's movies that try and fail dramatically, and we can make fun of them, we can
Yeah.
criticize them, but there's always something to take out of those movies. Then there's movies like Ant-Man Quantumania. That's not a film, that's a script that feels written by an AI because it was written by a committee whose only job was to make it marketable,
Do
sellable,
you,
and appealing.
do you know it's funny you say that, right?
Yeah.
This is slightly off topic, but this
Mm.
topic's more about how studios are shit as well. Um, the director for the Marvels are coming out
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
recently talked in the film, and she, which is weird how people were saying that she's started to say this before the film came out, was that,
yeah.
oh, yeah, this is Kevin's film. I'm just kind of there to kind of make sure the camera's pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, why would you say that? But no, no, no.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
right. I mean,
yeah.
balls, were you saying that before the
I
film comes
okay,
out?
I can understand that because first of all, being a female director in the industry is already fucking hard as fuck.
Yeah.
But think about the fact that this is a female director who's making a very quote unquote like feminist, but like, capitalist feminist movie where it's like, oh yeah, go women, make money. Kind of like the last Captain Marvel was, like where like it's like, bad. I could understand wanting to separate yourself from that and being like, hey, just to make it clear, if this is fucking garbage, I genuinely tried. I
Yeah.
genuinely tried. I had this dude over my shoulder. I genuinely tried, guys. I'm so sorry. It was out of my hands. I kind of fucking heck yeah, go, you go. Just it's that kind of thing, and that's the kind of thing we're trying to avoid because the problem here isn't that AI is evil. It isn't that AI is going to bring the destruction of all jobs. The problem is that there are corporations run by people, but these corporations' only goal is to increase profit and minimize costs. That's it. These we're talking about a bunch of studios which are publicly traded entities, and it is literally illegal for them to do things that make them less money every year. Like, they have to, no matter how good these CEOs are, which, given their comments about the strikes, they don't seem to be particularly nice people. Even if they were the kindest, most amazing people in the world, the way these studios are run is that they are legally bound to their shareholders, and they have to do everything that they can to minimize costs and improve profits every single year. What's that gonna lead to? Well, that's what it's leading to. This is why things like strikes are important and why you need to put a leash on them, because otherwise they're going to do what they are built to do. If the CEO of Disney decides to just give away all his money to the writers, that's a really nice thing he could do. But if he decides to put Disney's bottom line on the chopping block for it, that could potentially spell legal trouble for Disney, for example, as
Yeah.
any other studio.
It's
That's the
it's
thing. They are
bizarre with that
they're made
company
for that.
because
Yeah.
they are struggling with their streaming service. Disney Plus is
Mm.
not doing
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I do have a separate theory that
Mm.
Disney will eventually be owned by another company in a few months,
Mm.
in a few years.
Interesting. Interesting.
That's my current theory, but I'll leave that.
Interesting.
That's
Interesting.
Kyle's finance side theory. I've already given that to
Mm.
Lewis. But recently, Disney it's great that these companies decide to make big announcements during times that they're refusing to pay actors and writers a fair wage, where they said that they're going to chuck 60 billion into parks and cruises, and you're like,
Yeah.
Your parks and cruises have been struggling since the pandemic. I'll give you that. But also, your streaming services and your films have been struggling since the pandemic.
Yeah. I don't think it's chucking more money at the parks is gonna help.
Yeah, let's look at Disney's
they spread their money
Disney's
out.
kind of roster recently of Elemental, which in fairness I think has broken even, which I'm quite happy about. Indiana Jones and the Dial, Indiana Jones and the Dial Destiny. Ant-Man Quantumania. And Guardians, to be fair, but that's James Gunn. We'll put that aside.
Yeah. See, that's an example of a movie where the director was clearly given artistic vision.
Free rein,
yeah.
I think he was the only director in the MCU to be given free rein.
I think so, honestly, because you do have a couple of them, like, when they're starting out, like, if you see the first Taika Waititi's Thor, where, like, there seems to have been a little bit of leeway there, at least stylistically and stuff. And then when they saw that succeed, they were like, "Hey, let's Flanderize this shit. Let's do it." He did not seem to remember being on set in that movie. When I watched them in the interviews, it was really funny. He did not seem to be like aware of most things that were happening. I remember seeing one of those like shot for shot breakdowns where he's like, "Ugh, this looks kind of bad. We probably shouldn't have done that like that." Which really...
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was insane.
He got a lot of heat for that, I do believe, because he shat on the VFX, which, the CGI effects were bad because of Disney's horrible VFX practices. And most studios' horrible VFX practices. I believe I've talked about this before, but the way they distribute the amount of work, the way the effects are rushed, and the way that when actually shooting the film, they don't take these things into account. It's really fucked. It's why Guardians looked as fucking good as it did. James Gunn planned for those VFX. You've heard some of the people who did the VFX for that movie be very grateful. The very fact that planet with the animal people, they choose to do that practically. It was a larger upfront cost to create all those masks and all that makeup and put all those extras on that, but it saved a lot of money in the long run and meant that the CGI could be concentrated on the main characters and main, sections and starships and important bits of the film. Yeah. Things like that are not taken into account, but again, it all comes back to the idea of, hey, this production is going to be rushed because we need to take it out by this date because we're coming out with 7 movies in this one IP that we own again and again. You come back to the same fucking problem with, like, Lewis hates the whole remake thing. Why are there so many remakes? Why are there so many remakes? Because these companies own copyright to certain IPs. And if you don't do something with them, those copyrights are going to be gone. So they have to renew them every once in a while. It's why we had the Fun Force stick.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say.
Exactly.
Fox with Fantastic Four.
Was that movie rushed so fucking hard? Why? Because if they came out like a month later, they would lose the right to that. And they didn't want to. So yeah, it comes back to this idea, like they're not movie studios. They're just gambling with intellectual property and audience numbers.
That's a shame when we think about that. This is why I like. Well, these are big studios, right? There's a lot of small studios out there that I do feel have faith now. In recent news, that the Halloween franchise, the rights to the Halloween franchise, film and TV, are up for sale at the moment, right? I don't know why. That's bizarre. Don't know how that could have happened. And a big front runner for the purchasing of it is A24. If that happened, I think I would cry.
That would be amazing.
That is a studio that genuinely does care about its IPs.
Yeah.
And not even that, because obviously it's a distribution more than anything.
It cares about its movies.
It cares about its movies. It cares about the creators behind the movies, and that's why it was one of the studios that was allowed to keep going, because it went,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
obey to that. I mean, I would never even think A24 would be a studio that would use AI
Yeah.
behind it,
No, yeah.
because
And if they did, it
all
would be
all of their
something where like
writings
the
are so
director wants to
grounded.
experiment with AI, you know?
Yeah, unless it
Yeah.
was one of the themes of the film, I could
Yeah.
understand it, because that would be
Oh
something
yeah, yeah,
A24
exactly.
would do.
Yeah.
It's a shame that these big studios like your Warner Brothers, Universal, and your Disney's,
Hmm.
Paramount as well. Nobody's innocent. Are
Hmm.
really taking
Yeah.
advantage of the situation everybody's in. We're post COVID. We're you
Hmm.
know UK. I don't think the actors are on strike. No, they're not.
Hmm.
But cost of living crisis and everything. And
Yeah.
these companies are surging in profits.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And
Disney
the
being able
fact
to
that
put 60
this,
billion into parks.
yeah, because they could put more if they wanted to.
Uh huh.
They have more
It's
than
a
enough.
real shame, and I really then also think there's an ethical issue as well, that they
Oh
would
yeah.
even consider this. And there's I'm not saying fans are to blame, but when you
Hmm.
get reactions to when you had OG Luke show up
Hmm. Hmm.
and everybody screams out and they go, let's keep
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
saying we're to blame, but it was
again,
nice as
I
a one
can.
bit.
Yeah, but like I think it's a case of awareness because you can't help but love the things that you love. Like I
Yes.
remember watching the last Spider-Man movie, not the Great Spider-Verse one, which again is another one I enjoyed, whose production
No
story is
Way Home.
pretty fucked up. But watching
Yes.
No Way Home, I remember watching that. I remember enjoying the hell out of watching that. It is a fucking awful movie. It's a ridiculously bad movie. But seeing those characters reprise those roles that I grew up watching, it really did make me feel something. And it's a shame that studios are weaponizing that. They're weaponizing our love and our appreciation for certain characters, certain moments, certain stories that define us and define who we are. These are the myths of our generation, you know?
Hmm.
These are the stories that we tell ourselves, the parables of how to be better and what being a hero means and what struggling is. Like these are our parables. These are things that are very connected to who we are, how we grew up. Like it's part of us, and they are weaponizing the fact that we love these franchises to just stuff us with shit. Basically, just stuff shit down our throats, being like, "Hey, remember that childhood thing that you love? we're gonna
Exactly.
we're gonna we're gonna fucking milk it until you can't bear it anymore." And it's why you get such vocal outrage from all of these fans when it comes to every time a new movie comes out, why people are so divisive about things, because after all, these are things that we care about deeply. And the same way you would be angry if one of your friends suddenly changed and was very different and not the friend you remembered, people are angry at these things. And yeah, and I can understand that, hey, we just got to be more aware. They're using our love of these franchises, and we got to be aware of it. It's okay to enjoy things, but it's also okay to have standards and to want better. Because, yeah, I mean, sadly, they're going to keep doing it, and as long as it keeps being profitable, they're going to keep doing it. I'm not a big fan of the whole vote with your wallet idea. I don't think even if, like, we'd have to gather the entire world to not watch another fucking Marvel movie for them to start
It's
paying a
yeah.
CG artist, but,
Yeah,
like,
that
yeah,
that
I
would
just,
be that would
yeah.
be a struggle, I would say,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's a
But
very
yeah,
capitalist idea, very American kind of like point of view to be like, oh no, if you don't like something, just buy something else, you know? Yeah, it feels like it's time to hold them accountable because right now they are the owners of stories, which is a fucked up thing to even say conceptually, but they own our
yeah, I
stories,
know.
they own our myths, and
It's
we better
it's
fucking
scary.
better hold him accountable. Disney itself has gotten a lot of flack because it's one of the biggest ones and they own some of the biggest franchises. But also, I would like to remind everyone that the recent copyright law is the piece of shit that it is nowadays is also because of Disney, because the rights to Mickey Mouse were about to expire and they did some of that good lobbying and putting money in the pockets of the politicians.
Did you see?
Yeah.
So obviously the biggest example, just to quickly derail before we finish up,
Yeah.
copyright expiring was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So obviously it was 100 years I once released the character out of copyright, and 101 years after this, Winnie the Pooh came out was when Tigger came. So obviously Tigger is now in the new Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 horror film, and they released a photo, and I went, I can't believe that film made any money to make a sequel.
Oh god.
But anyway, I'll send this out, Gonzalo, and say that listen, that was a deep insight into AI and the effect it's had on the guilds and the unions and the strikes and everything, and the future applications it could have.
This is a depressing episode, guys.
I know. And, let's just say, happy note, right?
Yes.
Next week is the start of spooky season.
That's
We're
true.
entering October,
and
next week we have planned is entry-level horror films.
Oh, that's a good one.
We're kicking off spooky season, and I'm personally looking forward to that because I'm gonna get some good. I'm in a horror movie mood recently. So I'm gonna kind of jump into it.
Yeah, I like this because I'm the kind of person who both loves and hates horror movies, and I've struggled with horror movies a lot when I was younger, and I'm like only starting to get really into them and enjoy them and watch some of the classics and stuff. So I'm very excited to discuss this kind of thing. Yeah, 100%.
Just ironically, just as we said horror,
a
cat appeared at a window very suddenly and briefly made me just jump out my seat. It's my cat. It's not just a random cat. It's my cat. Like,
it is your cat. Okay, good. It's not a witch's
that was a review for No One Will Save You, Disney Plus Star. Please go see it, Hulu.
Yes.
And that was our discussions on AI in film and the effect it's having on the unions.
So
as we say, Gonzalo,
that
was just our unwanted opinions.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you very much, guys. I know. Right, thank you very much, guys, and come back
for listening
for entry into horror films.